Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another rendition of the All We Do Is Talk podcast. We're here with a Week 8 review. I'm here with Moody and Isaiah. How we doing today?
What's good, y'all?
Just another Victory Tuesday, Eric. Just racking them up. It's another Tuesday, another W.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Back on the right track. So we'll start with Thursday night, where the Packers beat the undefeated Arizona Cardinals 24-21.
You want to start?
Arizona, it was a good game. It was a good game, even though JJ Watt was out.
It was a playoff type of game. Low scoring, hard to convert on third downs, hard in the red zone, and the typical choke at the end of the game.
The Cardinals probably deserve to win this game.
I don't know about deserve.
They were on the goal line with a chance, and they were on the goal line, but Aaron Rodgers kind of almost cost Green Bay blowing through their timeouts. We're seeing this week. There's some teams that just blow through timeouts like they're not invaluable, but at least he's the offensive player. He's the captain of the team. So if anybody's going to run through timeouts, Aaron Rodgers, okay.
He can do it.
Even though he's doing it he's got excessive with it this year, in my opinion.
I watched him call a timeout on 3rd and 20 and make the play happen. So if Aaron want to use a timeout, he can use a timeout.
But Kyler Murray had another off game.
Yeah, he's been skating by with some struggles the last couple of weeks, and he finally got.
Looked like he got nicked up a little because we all know the story about Kyler if he's going to continue through. But Green Bay fully asserting that they are in the peak in that group of tier with the top teams in the NFC. Good win for them. Bad loss for Arizona. Playoff implications to be had.
Yeah, hopefully this is definitely a game that's going to decide some home field advantage. And right now, the worst case scenario is to be the 4 seed, because in the NFC, if you're the 4 seed, you're probably playing a 13 or 14 win NFC West second place team. So big win for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers continued to show us why he's Aaron Rodgers. The Packers don't lose when Devontae Adams doesn't play for some reason. Despite all the injuries and COVID stuff that they were dealing with, they still found a way, because that's what the Packers have historically done, especially in the regular season.
Not surprising. AJ Green makes probably the GOAT of the week.
Yeah, he's there were a few GOATs this week, but yeah, he was a pretty massive bonehead. I don't know how your veteran receiver doesn't know the play call, and with 14 seconds left inside the 5-yard line, you're not running the football with no timeouts.
They play work. That's the play they came out with, and clearly that's what they said. He didn't hit the check.
AJ Green this man is a vet. He's in the greatest draft class of all time. He can't sit there and know when to not run block.
That's the other key. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't in the game at the time because he got nicked up. So instead of throwing at DeAndre Hopkins, who's got some better chemistry with Kyler, AJ Green, but they'll get better from this. It's a learning experience. They're a young team. First loss. Hopefully they stay away from the tailspins that they're known to go on.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this game, Eric?
Yeah, I'm happy that we finally got a good Thursday night football game in. It took till about week 8 to get it, but we'll take it. The running game for Arizona wasn't good. Their leading rusher had 30 yards. I think if they can implement that more, and not just be so pass heavy or pass dependent, that will complete their offense more. And Aaron Rodgers, not a great game, but the W, and that's all that matters to him.
He managed it, and he made the plays at the end of the game. That's what you asked your MVP quarterback to do.
All right, so let's move on to my lock of the week, which was the only one that hit this week. The Titans beat the Indianapolis Colts 34-31 in overtime.
Yeah, you had to sweat this one out, Eric. Like, you talk about the lock. There was nothing lock about it. If the Colts were starting any quarterback slightly better than Carson Wentz, they probably win the football game, because for whatever reason he chose to give the game away every opportunity he had.
They went and got the game time drive right away.
After he gave it away. Yeah. Every opportunity Carson Wentz had to try to give this game up, he took advantage of it. Now, Michael Pittman made a clutch explosive play in the last 2 minutes for them to appear like they were going to win. They still had a chance to win the game.
They went to overtime.
And then Carson Wentz found a way to still throw it away late. Other than a really exciting football game, Tennessee's offense looked really good. Obviously, the news of the Derrick Henry loss is game changing for the Tennessee Titans overall.
I think he'll be back.
Julio's still not healthy, so it's Ryan Tannehill and AJ Brown show, and it showed up and showed out in this game on Sunday. AJ Brown was dominant. his yak abilities came back in full force after they had been missing him being out of the lineup. He was just a physical presence in the secondary. Those guys couldn't get him on the ground consistently enough, and that's how Tennessee was able to move the ball well enough on offense, and their defense made enough clutch plays to win the game.
Luckily for Tennessee and the Colts, they both have 3 games minimum left against the Jags and Texans, so they both got 3 wins looking them in the face, and that's kind of why they're probably going to both be able to float through playing so up and down this year. Tennessee's got some big wins, so an ideal situation for them would be to find a way to win out, get the 1 seed, get a bye, get Derrick Henry back in the playoffs, maybe, and go on a run. But I think maybe the blessing in disguise is that they'll have to be more pass first now. Maybe they'll get their passing game up to par. Maybe Julio will fight through some more injuries, get out there, start being more valuable. But without Derrick Henry, they're not winning no championship. So good luck to Derrick Henry, and sucks that he's not going to shatter those rushing records.
I guess they could pop the champagne, I guess.
Yeah. And they went and got Adrian Peterson, so we can see some more Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I don't know how they don't go get Todd Gurley instead of Adrian.
Yeah, that was strange to me.
You want Adrian Peterson? They're both done. They're both pretty done.
I mean, at least Todd Gurley like 6 years younger.
He could at least knees are 5 years older.
But Indianapolis did a good job containing Derrick Henry in this game. I don't know if he was already hurt in this game or not, but they sold out to stop Derrick Henry, and they did a good job.
That's what they're going to miss. That's what they're going to miss the most. His presence of making teams stack the box. Now they'll be able to play maybe bracket coverage on AJ Brown and Julio.
We're about to find out about Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee offense in general. We're really about to find out, are those guys great on their own, or are they great because Derrick Henry is just causing everybody to panic?
I think we'll see that their offensive line is pretty poor at pass blocking, so it's going to be tough. Luckily, they're playing the Jags and Texans 3 more times, so you don't need much to beat those guys. Next.
All right, so let's move to the Motor City, Detroit, where the Eagles shit-pumped the Detroit Lions 44-6.
The cover gods only cover when we pick them. I mean, they only cover when we don't pick them. If we think they're going to get blown out, they'll keep it close. If we think they're going to keep it close or possibly win the game, they're going to get stomped out. And that's exactly what happened here. They never looked competitive at any point in the football game. Philly drove the length of the field, scored touchdowns, and Detroit didn't do anything on offense. And that was the story of the football game.
They were our local game, and they were taken off the TV down 24-0
in the third quarter. Like that, it got taken off immediately. It never looked like Detroit had a shot.
Not much to say other than damn Detroit. Wow. And if Philadelphia didn't even look like they were being amazing on offense or anything. They just ran the ball for 200 yards. And Detroit's got a bad defense, but I thought in a more even matchup we'd get some more offense. But
there's nothing even about that matchup.
That Jared Goff is they're probably not going to win a game, and Jared Goff's going to continue to hunt for his first career win without Sean McVay endlessly, maybe even into 2022.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, there's nothing to say about this. We're done. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, if Jalen Hurts only has to throw the ball 14 times,
and you win by 40.
Dominant.
So let's move on. Let's keep going to the all-time backdoor cover. The Rams beat the Texans 38-22.
I think lucky for us, when we did our predictions, the spread was only 10.5.
It was. I don't think it got out yet. We definitely didn't hit it at its peak. So maybe when we did the episode,
we would have been fine. But for everybody who waited till Sunday, I'm sorry that somehow the Rams just went up by
two games were going up. The Rams and the Eagles were both up 38-0 in the fourth quarters, mollywhopping. And then whatever reason the Houston Texans decided to show.
They played the Rams this week. They played the Road Lions this week.
Yeah, the Houston Texans decided to show some incredible fight.
No. They just kept playing, I guess. It's a backdoor cover. Sorry for everybody in Vegas. Eric, this was less competitive than the Eagles game somehow because Cooper Kupp was wide open. Robert Woods in the rounds were working. Van Jefferson got wide open that he forced Deshaun Jackson out of town. They cut him today. And the biggest news, since we're talking about the Rams, is at the trade deadline, they decided to trade for Von Miller, which makes me feel even stronger about my preseason pick for them to win the NFC. That's going to be crazy to see Von Miller and Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and the kid from Chicago that they've had, Leonard Floyd. So that's the more important thing to talk about right here for the game. Houston was a no contest. How you feel about the Von Miller trade?
I mean, obviously, like the Rams are all in 100% on hosting a Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium. When you make a move like this, he's only going to be around for half a season. I'm sure they have no intentions on him being on the roster beyond this year.
The rumor came out that they're looking to resign him.
We'll see how that goes because he's obviously 32 and dealt with injury issues. But they gave him a second and a third round pick for him, so that's 2 4-year cheap contracts. So you have to assume that they have to at least be thinking about keeping him around. We'll see what the price looks like. But the deal's about this year. The deal's about going to win the Super Bowl this year and pairing Von Miller with Aaron Donald on the defensive line. I don't care how far people think Von Miller has fallen.
Who had 5.5 sacks this year.
That is a scary sight because Von Miller can still get after the quarterback and rush the passer in obvious passing situations. And pairing him up with Aaron Donald is just ridiculous.
Because Aaron Donald, he's going to get single covered. Von Miller's going to get single covered. Single block.
I hope your team offensive line has at least 3 Pro Bowls on it, and at least 2 of them better play tackle.
So it's a shame they're headed to Tennessee for Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. So I mean, if your offensive line got 3 Pro Bowls on it, good luck to you when you play the Rams. Good luck to you.
Yeah. So Eric, you could talk about the game against Houston if you want, but you probably just need to talk about the Von Miller trade.
I mean, yeah, I'll just give a shout out to Cooper Kupp, who had another incredible game. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with the Von Miller is that it might take some attention off Aaron Donald. So, like, instead of 3 guys going after him, it's only 2, which drastically helps him. And I still think Von Miller's got some bend in him. He's still got some life left. So
it's come full circle. He gets to play the DeMarcus Ware role now.
Exactly.
So good for Von Miller. I'm glad he's out of Denver.
And Denver gave up before. Denver's 4-4, and
they knew, and I respect Denver for understanding.
We'll get to their game, but yeah, we'll talk about Denver when we get to their game. Yeah.
All right, so let's move to Cleveland, where Cleveland didn't have their greatest game. They lose to Pittsburgh 15-10.
This is the second time in 3 weeks or in a month that the Cleveland has scored under 17 points.
Yeah. Well, obviously we know the reason why. Baker Mayfield's he's broken right now. His shoulder's broken, his mind's broken, and his confidence might be broken, and it's seeped into the whole team. And the defense that looked like a juggernaut the first 3 weeks of the season has started to let out points more and more often. Obviously, they didn't give up a bunch of points here because they were playing Ben Roethlisberger, but they still weren't getting the stops when they needed to get them. The Baker OBJ connection doesn't work.
It doesn't exist.
It hasn't worked, and it doesn't look like it will work. Just one target. I don't know how Odell's just running routes on air at this point. Like all he's doing is just out there beating press man and then gets back in the huddle. And that's the problem for the.
He gets a rare medicine ball thrown his way every couple of times.
Yeah, that's the problem for the Cleveland Browns right now with Kareem Hunt on IR. They aren't running the ball as dominantly. They're running the ball well, but they aren't running the ball as dominantly.
Conklin got carted off in this game too.
Oof. So they're dealing with injuries on the offensive line, injuries on the offense in general, and just a team that they had a bunch of talent. They seem to be more. It looks like they were more top heavy than we were expecting. The depth hasn't really come in there and shown that they can go out there and just win football games without Baker being at least pretty good.
And I will say, Jarvis Landry had a pretty terrible game.
It seeped into the whole team. All the players who generally play good are now starting to play poorly, outside of Myles Garrett, of course. But everybody outside of Myles Garrett isn't doing a great job on Cleveland right now. And Pittsburgh's got a hell of a defense, and if you allow their defense to just win the game, that's how Pittsburgh's going to get up out of there, and that's what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, tough. How do we feel about the most surprising thing for this game? I'll go with that. The most surprising thing is that I don't know how Pittsburgh pulled this out. There's no way Pittsburgh's out here winning games 15-10, but they've got some good weapons that they could just throw jump balls to, in Claypool and Johnson, and we saw a good game from Freiermuth. Yeah, you know his name. He's from Penn State.
Yeah.
And he was playing really good. He had a good breakout game. I mean, Pittsburgh's Pittsburgh. Now with the way that the Cincinnati's been looking, even though they had to let down the team, that battle for the NFC North is going to be pivotal because they're probably going to put 2 to 3 teams in, maybe even all of them. And jockeying for position is going to be necessary, especially with teams like Kansas City and the Chargers lurking, and Oakland. I mean, Las Vegas playing really good. The Broncos technically aren't out of it. So the AFC is just deep in general at the top and in the middle. So that's a big loss for Cleveland, and it can be season jeopardizing. And how do we feel about them keeping Odell Beckham Jr. because he did not get traded?
I mean, if the value wasn't there, it's probably more valuable to have him on the team than not on it, especially because they're trying to win. They're still trying to win this year. They aren't thinking about 2022 and beyond. So I don't mind you keeping Odell and trying to make it. I don't mind you keeping Odell and trying to make it work, but they have to make a concerted effort to do so. Odell at his best was I'm the number one guy on the team where no one else is even decent enough to take targets away from me. He got force-fed.
Sterling Shepard could play.
He got force-fed a ton of targets because he was the guy, and that allowed him to show off his spectacular talents. I'm not saying they have to force-feed him just because they're going to run the ball more than they're going to run it, and they have Jarvis Landry and other guys who can take catches away from Odell. But they have to do more of a job making him the focal point of their passing game. If they do that, they'll be able to they'll help the connection better. But it's a struggle right now.
Yeah. All right, Eric, how you feel about this situation in the game?
I mean, I took Cleveland last week because Nick Chubb was coming back. He didn't look himself. He didn't look like he was fully back yet. Because I think the Browns lost this game more than the Steelers won it personally.
Good Steelers football.
Yep. So, I mean, Baker Mayfield just ain't right. Like, he's clearly playing hurt and not playing at his full speed. So, we got a lot of questions surrounding the Browns and a ton of injuries. I mean, I think they're one of the most injury-riddled teams in the league.
This is me playing my world's smallest violin.
No one cares about your injuries.
See that Giants injury report? We'll get to that. Next game, if you're done.
Let's go down to the ATL where my Carolina Panthers beat the bloody-handed Matt Ryan's Falcons 19-13.
Just some ugly NFC South football. There was nothing fun or exciting about how this game went, especially after Matt Ryan hurt his hand. That basically ended any opportunity.
Because he threw the bad interception right after.
Right after,
it was like,
they had no chance to move the ball at that point. Calvin Ridley obviously taking some time off for his mental health. That's definitely going to hurt their offense. It allowed the Panthers to roll more coverage over to Kyle Pitts, who was not as dominant as he has looked over the last couple of weeks.
Trust me, I know he's on the fan.
I don't know how not much from Cordell Patterson either.
Another touchdown.
He got into the end zone, but they just weren't able to. They just didn't have the same dynamic offense that they had started to show over the last couple of weeks, being able to move the ball. It's a really good win for the Panthers, who stopped their slide after a 3-0 start, a division win. I think it was on the road. I think they played that in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so for them to go out there, shut down the Falcons offense, even without Calvin Ridley, that's a good confidence booster for their defense. Stephon Gilmore got a pick in his debut for the team, so I'm sure that helps. And for a Panthers team that's still in win now mode, like they're trying to make the playoffs this year, this is a solid win to help stop the bleeding.
Yeah, what we saw, we'll see this later on, and we saw another number one corner in Stephon Gilmore lined up against Kyle Pitts, a pass-catching receiver, and he just – cornerbacks, we'll see later. We'll get to the next guy who did it this week. And we'll see that cornerbacks match up well with big pass-catching tight ends most of the time. So I'm sure Gilmore would prefer to be playing in Kansas City and have an actual chance.
Maybe even Tampa Bay.
But, I mean, good showing for him. Hopefully we see how him and C.J. Henderson and J.C. Horn get back out, and we'll see how much this Carolina defense can carry them if they have all three of those guys out there playing. Mm-hmm. But Sam Darnold's got hit. Got mollywopped. He's in concussion.
Loud.
He's in concussion protocol for a little. Robbie Anderson continues to be the biggest thief of the year.
Anderson and DJ Moore too. Like Sam Darnold hasn't been great these last couple of weeks, but the drop passes that the Panthers have been dealing with on their offensive drives, it's been pretty ugly. It's 5-6 bad ones a game at this point.
Yeah.
Like Saquon Barkley. Hopefully Christian McCaffrey is also getting ready to make a comeback. That can help the offense.
They say he should be back coming off of IR this week.
So hopefully he can stay on the field for my fantasy team and the Carolina Panthers' sake. But Eric, what else you got to say about this?
I mean, the drop passes are just brutal. I mean, we came out with a W on Sunday, but the drop passes need to stop. You're in the NFL. You need to catch these balls. Sam Darnold got plowed, dude. I still can't. Once I saw him hit, I was like, oh, he is gone. So we'll see if concussion protocol allows him back this week.
I'm sure he'll be fine. We know how concussion protocol is.
So, I mean, Stephon Gilmore looked great. Just as advertised. I mean, got the game-ending pick. Even Shaq Thompson got a pick today or on Sunday as well.
Right after the hand injury.
I mean, so, good win. I mean, I'm not jumping up and down over beating the Falcons, but we definitely needed to stop that slide, and it took –
Wins are hard, Eric. Wins are hard to get in the NFL.
And if it takes me picking Atlanta to win football games, I'll be more than happy to do it.
Eric, as we're going to talk about later, I had to do the same thing. Eric, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So let's move on to Chicago, where Justin Fields showed some promise, but the Bears fell short 33-22 to the 49ers.
Big time showing for Jimmy Garoppolo as he tries to fight for his NFL starting career, honestly. And
he'll kick around when they're done with him.
But he went from a $27 million a year, I'm the man, playing in the Super Bowl to
he'll still probably be overpaid to be a backup.
His team drafted a quarterback third overall for a reason. But he was awesome in this game against the Bears today. With his arm, with his legs, he made enough plays on the road against a solid defense to be able to go out there and win the game. Justin Fields played the best game of his career. No coincidence that Matt Nagy wasn't around for him to do it, in my opinion. But overall, really good showing from Justin Fields to be able to build some confidence after a disastrous week the week before. But I think the story of this game is the San Francisco offense and Jimmy Garoppolo in particular, coming back from the calf strain, the bad loss against the Colts last week. They needed to build some confidence to get a strong victory. And I think this was a good one. The Bears aren't a great team, but they aren't a bad team either. And
you keep saying that, but
I mean, they're inconsistent. They get blown out sometimes. They lose close sometimes. They're just another one of those below average to average football teams, which is about the range that San Francisco looks like at this point. But they look like they're in the next tier out. They showed a heartbeat. The Niners showed a heartbeat after a rough start to the season, and maybe they can build on this going forward with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, for some reason, Jimmy Garoppolo just wins games in San Francisco, even if he plays good or play bad. Play of the game had to be that 3rd and 25. And they ran the screen to Deebo Samuel, and he decided to go get 80 yards.
Yeah. 83.
Definitely changed 83. Definitely changed the momentum of the game for San Francisco way, because that came after the Justin Fields run, which was probably the best run of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that stopped the momentum right there. Kyle Shanahan is a better coach than Matt Nagy, so that's why I took him in this game. But Matt Nagy didn't disappear. I mean, didn't show up to play because of COVID. So he was going against the guy who backs up Matt Nagy. So it was no contest. Justin Fields trying to carry the Chicago offense, which is they've been running the ball surprisingly really well this year.
And when you have a running threat quarterback, it allows you to open up the run game elsewhere.
But yeah, no Khalil Mack. So I wasn't surprised that they didn't rush the passer too well. And I'm surprised they didn't trade Akeem Hicks this year. So that's another team. I'm also surprised that San Francisco didn't think about trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought somebody would have been looking for a quarterback. Maybe New Orleans might have been interested in Jimmy Garoppolo for 2, but no. So that's all I got to really say about this.
I mean, I think these are two teams that don't have their first next year, I think. So these aren't teams that aren't going to be sellers. These guys are trying to win as many games as possible so they don't end up like Houston last year and like Miami this year and giving up top 5 picks.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the window on the Bears' good defense is closed. I mean, I think it ended when Fuller left. But let's shout out Brandon Ayuk. 4 catches, 45 yards. We're getting out of the doghouse. We're getting there slowly but surely. But
surely.
No, but San Francisco had a good game. Jimmy Garoppolo saved his job for another week, I guess. But so let's move on to Buffalo, where the Bills beat Miami 26-11.
The Bills look like they handled it, but this was actually a really competitive football game. A sluggish defensive struggle between two teams with really good defenses. Now, Miami hasn't always shown it throughout the year, but they have talent to be a really good defense, and they have a decent defensive scheme.
And Byron Jones and Xavier Howard were both back this week.
Yeah, exactly. So Josh Allen, who has generally, outside of the last game of the season last year, has had a harder time just moving the ball up and down the field in Miami defense because they can cover so well in man coverage. But it's the problem with Miami is their offensive line is awful, and in turn, they don't have a quarterback who's physically gifted enough to evade it and overcome that. And that's the biggest problem right now. That's why Miami can't touch Buffalo. That's why no matter what the spread is, Buffalo continues to cover it against Miami no matter what.
They were going into that garbage time cover touchdown.
Yeah, because even though this game was competitive throughout, it never really looked like Miami could win the game because you never thought that they could score enough points against the Buffalo defense to be able to get the job done. Devontae Parker is back today. Jalen Waddle's obviously they got a decent connection with Tua, but they have absolutely no run game whatsoever. Doesn't exist, and they can't protect the quarterback. So it's hard to expect this team to be able to score points on good defenses, and Buffalo is just good enough on offense that they can score more points than Miami could, and that's how Buffalo got out of here today. Good fight for Miami. People were probably expecting to just get dog walked really easily. They didn't let that happen, but at the end of the day, it's another loss for the Miami Dolphins, who are still in a free fall.
Yeah, so Cole Beasley had a big day, 10 catches for 100 plus. Another big look. We saw Stephon Diggs getting more involved again. Emmanuel Sanders, a little disappearing act, but
little 0 catches, 0 yards.
But
There's a little about it.
Yeah, to keep the trade deadline talk going, I'm surprised that Miami didn't try to trade off Xavier Howard or Byron Jones or Emmanuel Ogbah, whose teams were looking for pass rushers, teams were looking for corners, or Devontae Parker for teams looking for receivers, since they have so much receiver, or even Will Fuller, because I think he's just on a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. But I was surprised to see that no trade, and I'm surprised. Now we saw Deshaun Jackson get cut, so watch out for the Bills might be in on that, because I still think the Bills need a legitimate receiving core, because they don't really have a solid 2. So we're seeing lots of coverage roll towards Mr. Stephon Diggs. Cole Beasley, although he was an all-pro receiver last year, is still just Cole Beasley, so he's not gonna crush you like that for the most part.
And for 110.
Yeah, so he had a couple 10-yard catches where he ran a 6-yard out route, turned it upfield, fell down. That's what it was, really, crossing routes.
And it's like, y'all, we watched the Sunday night football game. Cole Beasley better than any of the 4 receivers who played in that football game on Sunday, and none of those guys made the All-Pro team. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
But yeah, so Buffalo, I thought they'd missed an opportunity to maybe get their team better, but not. And I'm surprised Miami wasn't sellers. Eric, anything?
I'm not surprised that Miami wasn't sellers because, like the previous point,
they have a first-round pick. They have San Francisco's,
but not their own. So they have to continue to fight to make sure theirs isn't a top 3 pick next year.
To do to them what they did last year.
Yes.
Trade back and getting an extra pick.
So but not super surprised that Miami wasn't sellers. Buffalo is not. We know the trade deadline is usually pretty overrated compared to the NBA and the MLB. NFL teams don't like to make deals, so it's not surprising that they were kind of quiet. But they did miss some opportunities to probably try to get better.
Especially Buffalo, since they're in the win now, championship window. But anything else to say about the situation, Eric?
No, I mean, this game was competitive, but it seemed like Buffalo knew what they were doing the whole time. Broke it open in the fourth quarter, but I mean, they did a good job and did what they had to do against a division opponent. All right, so let's move on to the surprise of the weekend. Moody's lock. The Jets beat the Bengals 34-31.
I mean, how could you have seen this coming? No one can sit here and tell me that they saw Mike White going and after what the Bengals just did to Baltimore, that they saw Mike White having one.
What do you mean? I told you it would be I said it would be a good.
You also picked the Bengals to cover.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Bengals were up a touchdown at least in the fourth quarter. They had to choke it away, and then they got the bad penalty that really put them away.
That's what happens. We know how this goes. When you're in a game against a team that you got no business being in the game in, the referees put you away last. That's how it happens. But Mike White, shout out to him, former Cowboys draft pick, so I got to give him some love. Went out there and had one of the greatest debuts for a player we've ever seen. 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he only had 1 turnover. Two. Oh, man. Against a good Bengals defense to score 34 points on them, to make the clutch plays down the stretch. That's a team-building win for a team that looked like they were in a disaster position without Zach Wilson, that the Patriots had just put 54 on them. So for them to come out here and beat the AFC-leading Cincinnati Bengals, that's a great win for them. For the Bengals, that's just a young football team falling into the trap, and they couldn't get out of it. They showed the ability that they could just move the ball at will, but their defense that had been really, really solid was just giving it up. They couldn't slow down the Jets on third down, gave up too many explosive plays. Corey Davis didn't even play, yet the Jets were just moving up and down the field. They didn't take them seriously, and it cost them the football game.
Yeah, that's the major thing. The Jets switched up their whole game. They ran a quarterback friendly game plan, which is crazy because they refused to run a quarterback friendly game plan for their actual quarterback who's a rookie. So the Jets being the Jets figured this out, and now they might fall into quarterback controversy, which is the worst thing you could do when you have a newly drafted quarterback.
I would be shocked if Mike White created some controversy.
If he wins 2 more games in New York, or even just plays decently, there will be problems. But that's the Jets. Good game plan for them. They steal another win. They've stole wins before. This is against playoff
Tennessee
teams.
and Cincinnati. Those are their 2 wins.
Because the Jets are a letdown game. They scream letdown, and then the referee. Cincinnati should have found a way to get out of this game because they were still being unstoppable on offense. Big game for Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow, and
all the receivers. All the receivers played good.
Tate and Higgins. Yeah, everybody. Great catches all the way around. For everybody. That was the crazy thing. Braxton Berrios, a guy from the U who I liked, has been sticking around. He looks like a solid slot receiver type. And then big catches for Higgins. The catch from Keenan Cole that didn't count, probably the catch of the week. But Bengals are a young team. They probably were feeling themselves coming off a big win like Baltimore last week when they were coming off a big win. And so they just got smacked up. It happens. I'm sure everybody else in the AFC, especially in the AFC North, was really happy to see that. But what you guys say about this, Eric?
I mean, yeah, I'm going to go back to Mike White. I mean, how do you feel that your top 2 draft pick couldn't? Well,
they don't run. They don't run this. They didn't run that game plan for him. They made him throw the ball down the field aggressively. They said Mike White just throw dunk offs because you don't know what you're doing. But that's how bad the coaching is in New York right now because they have young coaches that don't know what they're doing.
Hopefully they can use it as something to build off of for when Zach Wilson gets back in the lineup.
Or they'll probably put him back in the lineup and tell him to go play like Patrick Mahomes.
He's supposed to be the Patrick Mahomes, the BYU Patrick, the Mormon Patrick Mahomes. So,
yeah. Anything else, Eric? Continue.
5 yards. That is nuts. But I mean, yeah, great win for the Jets. They seem to only beat playoff teams. Good for them.
Yeah, if only New England was. I guess that means New England's not going to be a playoff team.
Only good teams lose to the Jets.
What's the next game?
So we'll move to the 4:00 slate now. We'll start in Seattle, where Seattle handled their business and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-7.
What made y'all think that the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off the first ever bye on half the people on their team, would go into Seattle and beat them? What made y'all beat them?
I mean, I assumed they had the better quarterback on the field, but it didn't matter. Jacksonville had covered the last 2 house they had played. They covered. They won a game. They looked like they had been building some momentum. They had 2 weeks to prepare for a backup quarterback who they knew they were going to play. And they got stomped out. They just got absolutely hammered by a better football team. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett made their secondary look silly all day long. Tyler Lockett was running behind him. DK Metcalf was catching balls over people's heads, and they just had no answers for that receiving core. On the real surprise was on the offensive end. They couldn't do anything. Couldn't run the ball. James Robinson got hurt, and that was a problem for them. He's been their best back. But their receivers were not getting open against a Seattle secondary that is not good. Trevor Lawrence was sitting back in the pocket, holding the ball, waiting for guys to get open. When he delivered it, guys were dropping the football. It was just a really disappointing performance for a team that looked like they had finally started to build some positive momentum. Like, they didn't have to win the game, but to show and just get absolutely handled.
Seattle's defense is hard for young quarterbacks. Like, it's easy to beat up on if you've never seen it. But
they didn't have to beat up, but they did nothing. Like they scored 7 points late in the fourth. Like, they basically got shut out in this one.
They didn't know what they were getting in. They didn't know what they were stepping.
Just nothing.
It's tough to win in Seattle.
Ass kicking.
It's hard to win in Seattle.
Just an absolute ass kicking.
A rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback weren't going to come off a bye and have a game plan better than what Pete Carroll was. Pete Carroll was rubbing his hands like Mr. Bill Belichick on rookie quarterback, and we got our backup in, and their defense is bad. So their defense was never going to give them the support to stop. Now I'm more surprised that their defense just like Geno Smith, but those guys, like you said, running wide open, catching balls over receivers' heads. So they got up early right away. Game over. Anything else, Eric?
I mean, not really. I mean, Seattle just showed they were the superior team in this game.
The Jags are bad. They made it very clear. That's a statement game for the Jaguars.
Russell Wilson, they get the pin taken out of his finger. It looks like he'll be back and ready to go next week. So Seattle somehow went 1-1.
1-2.
Pittsburgh game this week,
and they lost to They lost Pittsburgh too. They because this is so the Rams. Am I counting the Rams game? Are you counting the Rams game?
Okay, no, because Russell started that game.
So they played the Steelers right after that.
Yeah.
Then yeah, so 1-1.
They might have had a bye. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, like Eric said, nothing more else. What's the next game, Eric?
We lost to the Saints 13-10.
Oh yeah. Two forgettable games. Two forgettable games.
So we're gonna go out to SoFi Stadium where New England beat the Chargers 27-24.
Bills got answers for Herbert. I think that makes that is the simplest way to talk about what this matchup was. We saw it last year when they stomped Justin Herbert out 45-0. Came right back this year. The Chargers got off to a good start, looked like they were going to be fine, and then the bottom fell out from them in the second half. They couldn't stop the run. Mac Jones started being able to find some answers in the passing game after the run game got going. Then the Chargers offense just skirted to a stop, and they couldn't score. They couldn't keep scoring, and New England just cut the lead down, took over the lead. Then they were in control of the football game, and just like that, the Chargers are scrambling for answers after that great win against the Kansas City Chiefs. They've gotten handled a couple of times. Some teams have started to figure out, like, hey, start guarding Mike Williams instead of and let Keenan Allen beat you with the dump offs. And that's how they've been able to find answers for them. And the Chargers defense, if you can run the ball effectively, you can beat them you can beat that defense pretty easily. It's not a great defense. And the Chargers have been exposed a little bit after a really solid start, I think.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Their offense, I think, is pretty one-dimensional. Like Kansas City, you're going to play a cover 2 shell, and you're going to back up. That's a hard. If you can't run teams out of that, you're not going to get them out of that. As you've seen, you're just going to be having to dink and dunk. And in the NFL, when you have to dink and dunk, it's more likely that passes go off receivers' hands, get tipped. The short passing game is hard to just execute over and over unless you're Tom Brady, because everybody's always wide open, I guess. But they can't stop the run. So the biggest flaw of me holding on that I've got money for LA versus LA in the Super Bowl is that the Chargers will have to avoid the Titans, the Ravens, and the Steelers, I guess.
The Browns, too.
Yeah, so they're matchup dependent in the playoffs. So that's what's going to come down to that. Their coaching that was so elite to start the year has tailed back off because they do have a rookie coaching staff. Their offense doesn't look as good as it did last year because they have a new offensive coordinator who's implementing a different offense. So they probably could have tried to keep the last coordinator because I think he's in Philadelphia now. He's a well-respected guy, but their offense is Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, really. They could run the ball some more. I'm surprised, speaking trade deadline wise, that they had not trade for Akeem Hicks to fix the run defense. But they're not so in the window where they have to go all in yet. But they probably should have. This would have been a good time to start going all in because you have 4 more years of cheap Justin Herbert. So I would have traded for Akeem Hicks for a second, maybe even a third, if you're lucky. But they chose not to. And New England's got their number. They have not beaten New England, and they've been home both times. And as for Mac Jones, they just dink and dunk.
He's just solid, take care of the ball. And this Bill, it's the Tom Brady facsimile. If you don't mess it up, Bill will get the job done for you. And that's how Mac Jones is performing so far.
Eric?
Yeah, I was going to go on the Mac Jones train. I mean, he just looks good in this system. I know he wasn't really efficient, but like minimal mistakes, which is what Bill Belichick loves. I mean, he had a run game like Damian Harris went for 80 yards today. I mean, he just looks good. I mean, in that system, I mean, you can see them starting to open up the offense a little bit more each week. Like he's taking more deep throws. He even connected on a really good one. I forget to who it was. I think it was to Bourne.
And there was a bad Kendrick Bourne fumble that let LAC back into the game. So,
like New England was handling them. Like this was like the scoreboard was kind of close, but like New England was clearly the better football team on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I have anything else? Let me see the Chargers side. I mean, no, and also the Patriots made a sincere effort that Keenan Allen wasn't going to get the football today.
They bracket both the two weapons and force the others to beat you. It's the stop and explosive offense method that's worked since the beginning of time. If you have pass rush or great coverage, yeah. But New Orleans defense does look like it's starting to round in the form. Luckily, they got a couple exhibition games against the Jets to smooth things out.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. So let's move to Mile High, where the Broncos beat the Washington football team 17-10.
Just more ugly trash football between Teddy Bridgewater and Taylor Heineke. This was another local game that was on the big TV that we had to watch, and nothing really happened the whole time. It was 10-10 for like 3 hours, and the Broncos finally found a touchdown late in the game, and they held on to win it because Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team aren't very good.
2 blocked field goals, so they have 4 blocked.
Because Chris Blewett for the Washington football teams had 4 of his first 5 kicks blocked. Like, it's actually incredible how it happens.
So
how do you get a kicker and his name is Blewett?
he lives up to his name.
He plays a role. He plays a role.
You can't make this shit up.
I mean, this game was terrible. Nothing happened. Who scored in this game?
I think Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, the little scamper from Melvin Gordon. And I want to say Terry McLaurin, maybe.
No, it was Carter.
Yeah, Carter scored.
The number 1 is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you blink, you miss scores.
And then Antonio Gibson, stop playing on that shit, bro. You're not healthy. Another fumble for him as he continues in the red zone that cost him points. He got to come off the field.
Unfortunately, another game where the Washington football team could have won this game. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick could have got him over the hump because he's a more veteran presence. Maybe they're just one piece away. Defense has picked it up, but now their offense is going back to shit, and they've blown a lot of games. So they're just stuck in the NFC East basement right now with another team that blows lots of games. So we'll get to them later. Anything else is really – and that's for the Broncos. They won so convincingly they decided to trade away their franchise player, even though they're right in the thick of the –
one game back of the division and then the AFC West. And they said, let's just give up the face of our franchise, basically.
Yeah,
they know what they are, and I respect them for it.
What does Vic and I hope Vic Fangio knows.
And am I just saying this because the Cowboys play the Broncos on Sunday? Maybe. But good luck to Von Miller in L.A.
Yeah. Eric, anything else to say about this month? This was probably the worst game – other than that Eagles game, where they're scoring at least, that of the week. This is probably the worst game of the week.
Yeah, I mean, the Washington football team continues to struggle in the red zone. I mean, they're good at getting there, but then once they get there and the field condenses, they've had a real hard time finding the end zone.
I think missing Logan Thomas has been really rough on them in the red zone because now your best red zone threat's a 5'11" Terry McLaurin.
Can you imagine saying missing Logan Thomas, the former quarterback from Virginia Tech, turned tight end? Okay.
But not bad, Eric. Keep going.
It was probably the quietest game for Terry McLaurin. I mean, he only had 3 catches for 23 yards.
Yeah, Surtain's been a beast.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just a brutal game for Washington. Another game where I truly think if they had Fitzpatrick, they win the game. I think they're at like 2 or 3 games like that now. To where if they had a capable quarterback, they would have won. All right, so let's move on to the Fox America Game of the Week, where
if you don't live in the D&D area,
where the Saints took care of business against the Buccaneers, 36-27.
The Bucs played so bad in this football game. Like they were truly abysmal in all facets. Like the only person who played decent in the game was the first 2.5 quarters of Tom Brady. And that says a lot considering how this game ended. Good win for
Chris Godwin had a good game.
Yeah, that's fair. Good win for the Saints. They showed that they have the Bucs number in the regular season. Their defense is really good in that dome, and they now that they're getting healthy, they showed some strong firepower and causing Tom Brady hell, especially with the pass rush. Gotta talk about our condolences for Mr. Jameis Winston tearing his ACL. He'll be out for the year. We wish him the best of luck. Taysom Hill is probably going to check back in to be the starting quarterback. But the story of the game was the very fine performance from Trevor Siemian, the former quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He was fine against a decent Tampa Bay defense in this game. He certainly didn't flub it up. When he tried, the Tampa Bay defense was sure to hit him late so he could get away with it, and that allowed him to put the points on the board they needed to win the game. But the real story of the game was how much Tom Brady struggled against the Saints defense. They got some pass rush after him. He uncharacteristically was just giving the ball away, didn't protect it in the pocket on a fumble, threw 2 bad interceptions. Just a really rough game for the Bucs and Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, somebody here picked New Orleans to win because I have been watching that Tom Brady has played 3 pitiful games against that defense. So clearly they know what they're doing. Somehow Jameis Winston gets hurt. Trevor Siemian comes in But like Moody said, they're back-to-back roughing the passer penalties.
There were 3.
One of them happened on a play that resulted in an interception. So, yeah, they kick a field goal instead of an interception, and then so they're up by 3 when Tom Brady throws the put-away pick 6 instead of the Bucs being up by 1. Because the Bucs make a furious comeback. Tom Brady never lays down, I guess. He just puts the team in that situation and likes to play hero.
He's the Avengers of quarterbacks. That's what he is.
Like Carson Wentz, people were taking away that corner route with the cover 2. That's what cover 2 is going to take away, that cover 2 man under. That's going to take away that corner route because you got the underman and you got the overtop safety. So him and Carson Wentz were just throwing that ball over there, just like, I guess I'm going to put it in there.
You're not seeing that guy?
They wanted to fit it in there. I mean, sometimes you got to believe in your abilities to fit it in there. If you've done it one time, that could be the worst thing. Other than that, the Saints defense, MVP of the game. Marshawn Lattimore, we know he's got his rivalry with Mike Evans. It's a good matchup.
Gave him a touchdown, though.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. It's been back. Sometimes Mike Evans has good games. Sometimes Lattimore has incredible games where he just takes him out. But that's what happens when you got 2 good players going at each other. But other than that, really, Tampa Bay just penalties and turnovers.
Yeah, and support coaching too. When you're down by 10 and then you kick an extra point to go down by 9, like
they came back after that.
They ended up cutting the lead down anyway. But it's like they could have been having the chance to tie the game and put actual pressure on them. But instead, they just was down 2 possessions the rest of the second half.
Yeah, Tom Brady didn't come through in the end, but it's the NFL and he struggled against this team. New Orleans was at home, which I thought would give him the boost. And the Jameis Winston injury might have fired everybody else up to get him through it. But I just don't know how sustainable. Like Tennessee, Sean Payne's gonna have to do a great job getting his team through a very bad injury that's gonna set him back a little bit. But I'm gonna continue to play my world's smallest violin for teams and their injuries. But hate to see Jameis Winston having a great season, tearing ACL, and he technically gets a win against his old team. So
yeah, good for him. Congratulations to Jameis.
Anything else, Eric?
No, I mean I think the running game for the Bucs wasn't really there.
You can't run on the Saints.
You can't run on the Bucs.
Can't run on the Bucs. Yeah.
So I mean, Tom Brady did well. Like he's still going to be in my top 3 for the MVP. Still threw for 375 and 4 touchdowns. Like
only because some other guys might have fell out this week.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean it was a great game. Trevor Siemian did what he had to do not to ruin it. So that's what you ask a backup quarterback to do when he needs to come in the game. So good win for the Saints. Making that Panthers win look even better. So let's move on to the Sunday night football game where Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys walk into Minnesota and beat the Vikings 20-16.
Before I let you go, because you could go. Is Kirk Cousins the top 10 quarterback that certain people were claiming to be after a performance like that on Sunday night? That's all I got.
Certainly not in prime time. Certainly not in prime time. But let's not forget that Isaiah said that we were losing that football game whether Dak played or not. So Dak and Isaiah also picked the Vikings to win the division. So let's not act like you had no faith in Kirk Cousins yourself. But frankly, I'm not gonna lie, guys. When they ruled out Dak Prescott, I didn't think we were gonna win this football game.
Don't worry, Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins said, "We got you."
I didn't think we were gonna win the football game, but the Cowboys showed that they're a complete football team. They have been spending the last 2 years being solely reliant on their quarterback to give them a chance in the games every week. But now with him being out, the rest of the team stepped up. Obviously, Amari Cooper, who's been fighting through injuries the last few weeks, he stepped up with a monster performance, 100 yards and a touchdown. They stopped the run. They did a really good job of slowing down Zeke, but Zeke made the biggest play of the game on 3rd and 11. Chuck sticking Anthony Barr and making a first down happen.
What about the DBs? There were 2 DBs.
I mean, DB's not going to tackle Zeke.
2-on-1?
The linebacker is the guy that he ran through to get him. Once he had the forward momentum, he wasn't getting stopped from getting the first down. But that was obviously huge, and it allowed the Cowboys to get a touchdown instead of a game-time field goal on 3rd down. But the story of the game was the defense. Like the Vikings, as inconsistent as Kirk Cousins can be, the Vikings have one of the better offenses in the NFL, and it's super duper talented.
They scored 7 points against Cleveland's defense.
And now Cleveland's defense, we don't know how we truly feel about that at this point. But
exactly,
the Vikings are still sitting there with Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Those are all dudes who could be considered top 10, 15 players at their positions. And the Cowboys did a great job of handling them. Adam Thielen had an early touchdown touchdown was basically not a factor the rest of the game. Justin Jefferson had 2 catches for 21 yards. Now Isaiah will tell you that Kirk Cousins did miss him.
Now Justin was running wide open
on an out and up.
60 yards down the field.
Kirk Cousins did miss him, but overall,
they needed those points in the end.
Not a lot of opportunities. But the start of the game was Michael Parsons. He was unbelievable. He single-handedly shut down the run game. He was getting after Kirk Cousins in the passing game. He had 4 tackles for loss. And the Cowboys defense, which we didn't expect to be a catalyst for them to win a football game, was the reason they won the football game, because Cooper Rush wasn't amazing. He was just fine. And him being fine was good enough for a defense that played really, really good football. And the Cowboys came away with a really strong confidence building win.
Yeah. So clearly, if you're winning games with your backup quarterback, your team is good. And if Kirk Cousins is losing games and playing in prime time,
it's a good team.
He's losing games. Mike Zimmer, he's not going to make it out of this season. Him and Matt Nagy they're going to be 2 new coaches in the NFC North probably. And if Dan Campbell's story goes even worse, he might be.
If he go 0-17, can you bring him back?
He might be gone too. So there might be 3 new coaches in the NFC North, and I was clearly wrong. Green Bay is by far the best team in that division. I still think Minnesota will show some fight. But how can I the coaching I witnessed, the conservative nature of trying to just outlast the backup quarterback, and just so you could still lose to him is saying your game plan was wrong. I thought if you look at the passing charts, Cooper Rush was pushing the ball down the field to his good receivers more than Kirk Cousins was pushing the ball down the field to his good receivers. Good coverage, but still, like I said, there was an early chance for them to get 2 explosive touchdowns on back-to-back drives. But instead, Kirk Cousins decided to miss Justin Jefferson running wide open on everyone's favorite top 5 corner, according to PFF.
No, Anthony Brown. Not Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown.
He was clearly beat on that play, and that would have hurt the grade. But, I mean, good win for the Cowboys, because anytime you win games with like Seattle, like the Jets, like New Orleans, anytime your backup quarterback comes into the game and you win games,
no Tyron Smith as well, no Dak Prescott, no Tank Lawrence to walk in there and win the football game. Now, give Mike McCarthy some credit. That's really impressive.
Now, luckily, to match the Tyron Smith injury, we saw that Danielle Hunter is going to miss another rest of the season. So that's 2 years. He's probably played about 7 to 10 games in 2 years, and he wanted that contract extension. So he probably should have sat out for that contract extension. And Minnesota's probably happy that they just gave him a pay raise for 1 year. But yeah, they've got lots of. I mean, they're a quarterback away, so I hope Kellen Mond's developing. But it's really just Justin Jefferson and for their future, and their offensive line's looking better. Darisaw was showing some stuff out there.
But Randy Gregory was kicking his ass or something.
He made some, yeah. Cleveland looks good, but they have a couple of young pieces on the offensive line, Jefferson's for the future. But Minnesota's just they peaked, and now I don't know where they go from here.
They're like a 500 average football team.
They better be for the prices they're paying all those players. Eric?
I mean, I'm going to give Ezekiel Elliott props on that 3rd down. I mean, it was.
How about the DBs just tackle him?
It's the play of the game. It's the play of the game.
How about the 3 people that had a chance to tackle him just gang up together and tackle him? You only had to go 15 yards.
That's why you pay Zeke $100 million.
And
what's it called? We saw Andrew Adams make that play a couple in the week 1.
Zeke starts slow. Go ahead, Eric.
And Amari Cooper and Cooper Rush did what Kyler and AJ Green wanted to do. Great ball by Cooper Rush in that instant. Greater catch by Amari. Helping the fantasy team out, Amari. Thank you. We're heating up in the league. We're heating up. But yeah, just a great gutsy win by Dallas. I mean, it was one that they didn't have to have. They kind of waved the white flag a little bit, but then came out and performed. So you got to give the Cowboys a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and lastly, Mike Zimmer's going to go because his defense has been atrocious, and he's a secondary guy, and his secondary has been the reason their defense has been bad for 3 years, 4 years.
Ever since Xavier Woods had that really good season, Rhodes, they don't have any talent back there. Like Xavier Woods from the Cowboys tried to have the game of his career, want to play 100% on all the snaps apparently, and force a couple turnovers. But Cam Dantzler, Rashad Breeland, like those guys aren't covering Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen. All right, and lastly,
let's move to Isaiah's pain. Monday Night Football. The Chiefs edge out the Giants 20-17.
Now I think this has an argument for the worst game of the weekend.
This is like second or third.
Second or third. You go ahead. You take it away. You're
second or third. Like I said, like I think the Washington football team game was even worse because Mahomes wasn't in it, and the Eagles game was a disgraceful presence by Detroit. But I mean, no one's worse in primetime than Kirk Cousins than Daniel Jones. No one's worse in primetime than Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones, which is mainly because he's been playing on a garbage team that's been coached badly for the last few years, so it's not helping. But and those are usually good matchups against good teams. Which Giants never get to play no bad teams on Thursday Night Football. So except for that Evan Ingram game, football team, Evan Ingram game. Yeah, this game summed up penalties galore for both sides, bad turnovers on both sides from both quarterbacks and skill positions, bad coaching from Andy Reid, bad coaching from Joe Judge. I mean, I think the best person doing the job was actually Mr. Patrick Graham, and he had the easiest job. Just tell your just bracket Tyreek Hill, bracket Travis Kelce, which was a good game, taking Travis Kelce completely out of the game to the point where the first time he got a touch after a while, he put a fumble on the ground that really let the Giants believe that they might steal it. But the Giants didn't play good enough to win because the Kansas City played a D- game, so the Giants backed it up by playing an F game. Patrick Mahomes comes out, they drive down the field, bad red zone turnover on a bad decision, and then another tip pass that goes, any pass that goes in the air at Kansas City that Patrick Mahomes throws is picked off, and Daniel Jones decides to gift them back the turnover on the next play, so it cancels out that momentum. And then Giants had to, basically it comes down to this, the Giants had to do two-minute drives with 0 timeouts. You can't do 2-minute drives with no timeouts. So maybe they should stop calling timeouts on defense and save them for the 2-minute drives. But apparently, Joe Judge came out with the best excuse that the headsets aren't working.
And it haven't been working all season, apparently. So like it's the first we're hearing of it. But for 2 months, they've had headset issues.
Now it's a terrible excuse, but I will say we do remember the infamous Ben McAdoo walkie-talkie game. So maybe the NFL's been cheating the Giants out of good headsets, and they're not getting plays through because they always look this combined way.
Well, we know the NFL's already investigated themselves and said they found no problem.
But yeah, Jason Garrett, terrible, probably going to lose his job after this year. And if they don't pick up some wins against these bad teams that make them look respectable, everybody will probably lose their job next year. So we'll see how that goes on. As for Kansas City, they didn't play good enough to win, but luckily they're playing the NFC East this year, so they've already going to
3 of their 4 wins are against the NFC East.
I believe they'll probably finish 9 to 10 wins. So about a third of their wins will come from beating NFC East teams. If they beat the Cowboys later on, even a higher percentage, maybe a quarter to a half of their wins come from playing that division. But that's what Pittsburgh did last year. That's what Cleveland did last year. That's what Baltimore did last year. But other than that, maybe the Giants get in a couple weeks when they go play Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, through 8 weeks, the Chiefs are ass. That is not a good football team over there. And that football game was terrible. Patrick Mahomes looks broken right now. Like, now, not saying he can't be fixed, but like this was the Patrick Mahomes I was expecting to see when he first entered the league.
I will pause and say he's still top 5 in passing yards.
Yeah, his numbers are going
to,
but like his numbers are going to be his numbers. But the decision making is not just the forced throws. He doesn't protect the ball in the pocket. He's running out of good pockets to try to make plays that are unnecessary. And it's costing him. It should have cost him this game. The Chiefs shouldn't have won last night. I believe y'all played a better game than they did. But they have Patrick Mahomes, so they got to squeak out of it late, I guess. But no, they sucked yesterday, and they've been sucking for a while. And I think it's starting to get worrisome about their playoff hopes because they're only going to be able to beat bottom-dwelling NFC East teams. I really don't know how they're going to beat a team that's even halfway decent.
I'm sure it'll be okay when they beat Green Bay this week. Everybody will forget all about that.
They made a trade for Melvin Ingram. Hopefully that'll allow them to actually kick Chris Jones to his natural 3 technique position where he was making plays yesterday instead of having him out there on the edge, and hopefully that'll help improve their defense even slightly to help them. But until they figure out how to beat a too high safety look, until they figure out how to get their others involved in the football game, they're going to struggle. They're going to go win, 1 loss, and they're going to finish a barely above 500 or a barely below 500 football team until they get this together. As for the Giants, this is what happens to average to below average football teams. They play in competitive games and they find a way to lose them at the end. And that's what the Giants did here. Jason Garrett, that was an abysmal performance by Jason Garrett. A lot of second and long runs. Y'all couldn't stop running screen passes.
They were working, so at least they were working.
And then,
they should have definitely thrown the ball down the field and challenged that secondary.
The game-changing play, the Elijah Penny taunting from when the Giants was going to have 1st and 10 at midfield.
Can you imagine being on a 2-5 team?
And taunting.
As the fullback.
The Giants went from 1st and 10 at midfield with about 4 minutes left to first and 10 at the 30, and they never got past midfield again, didn't see the ball again. That was the end of the game.
And since the Giants almost put up 400 yards of offense, we can confirm that this Chiefs defense
is awful.
Is terrible. But
yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I turned this game off halfway through the third quarter, to be honest with you.
I wish I could.
Yeah, so is Derek Gore Frank Gore's son?
I don't think they're related. I think Derek Gore's son is in college right now.
I just think they made that. I think Peyton Manning just made that up.
For my fantasy team, they just decided to throw a random guy into the lineup and give him a whole bunch of touches in the first half when I was starting Darrell Williams. That's the only reason they played.
Darrell Williams still had an amazing game.
But they should have been spectacular.
But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs should have won this game. So, I'm not – a win's a win, but they don't look good at all. I agree with Moody. I mean, they're borderline playoffs right now with how deep the AFC is right now. Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is starting to figure out or find out or be less lucky with his interceptions. Yeah, they just got to figure it out. I mean, I don't know what they can do to fix it right now, but
I'm happy that they played the NFC East already,
and be happy they won that Super Bowl 2 years ago because man, it's
and they beat Cleveland, and Cleveland decided to look like they're going to be the worst team in the NFC North. So they have time. They still have a game against Pittsburgh, a game against the Chargers, and 2 games against the Vegas Raiders. So and luckily the Broncos just look like they punted the season.
It's all in front of them, but they don't look.
They'll be fine because they have Patrick Mahomes, so he'll get them through it, and they'll get swamped in the playoffs because their defense will give up a game where they don't stop anybody. And now, time for the MVP power rankings.
All right, I'll just go ahead and kick it off. At 3, I'm sick and sad because now that Kyler Murray finally lost, I would have had the opportunity to put him at 1, but he didn't play on Sunday. So Dakota Prescott drops down to 3rd overall. He's still arguably been a top 3 quarterback in the NFL this year, but he missed the game, so you don't get to keep your spot.
And his backup came in and played just as good.
No, just
350?
325. He had a couple of bad turnovers. The Vikings let us win that game more than he went and won the football game, but whatever. So that would be number 3. And number 2, I'll put in, for my first time being on the list, Mr. Matthew Stafford from the LA Rams. He's just been really, really solid all year long outside of the one Cardinals game. And they had a run of ugly football. A lot of Lions, Giants, and Texans. That's how you pad your numbers up, and that's what they've been doing. And at number 1, my preseason MVP pick gets his spot back on the perch, and that will be Aaron Rodgers. 7 straight wins. He did it without Devontae Adams and most of his receiving weapons. His best offensive lineman is yet to play this year, and yet the Packers are 7-1. He's got 17 touchdowns to 1 pick in his last 6 games. The Packers are top of the conference. They're still really good. Aaron Rodgers still really good, so he gets to be number 1 now.
So yeah, I guess since Kyler Murray lost to Aaron Rodgers, he's fallen out. He's fallen out. So Aaron Rodgers will be 3. Sucks that Derrick Henry will not play because the door would have been starting to get open. At 2, I'm gonna go with Josh Allen because he's gonna put up ridiculous numbers and they're gonna continue to win on the back of him leading them in passing and rushing. So he's the best offensive weapon in the league, probably now that Derrick Henry's out. And at 1, Matthew Stafford because him and Cooper Kupp are gonna put up a Tom Brady, Randy Moss type of 2007 season. And now they got Von Miller, so their defense are gonna back them up. So they're probably gonna win the next few NFC West games, and that Green Bay game that they have coming up will be so important for their season.
So I got all 3 of our MVPs in this top.
Because you're gonna keep keeping Tom Brady into the picture until he's out of it.
I'm gonna put Tom Brady at 3, Aaron Rodgers 2, and Matthew Stafford 1 right now. I think 1 and 2 right now is interchangeable. We'll see how the season develops, but those 2 guys I think they're
going to play each other.
Yeah, I think those 2 are clearly the top 2 guys right now. But yeah, Tom Brady still put up the numbers to keep an MVP pace, so I'm going to keep him in there until he has a truly bad game.
So is it a guarantee that the MVP is coming from an NFC quarterback?
No, I told you Josh Allen has the easiest. He has the easiest reign to it.
He's gonna have to really pick it up in the second half of the year because he hasn't really put up the.
No, his rushing numbers. You gotta remember his rushing.
I mean, yeah, and we were getting that for Kyler too, and Kyler's not in it anymore. He's got 2 L's. Having 2 losses hurts.
Yeah, 2 L's. No, they don't.
Yeah, the Bills lost the second game to the Titans.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think his schedule. He's gonna play the Jets a couple times.
And I can't be handing you MVPs because you get to run through the Jets 2 more times. Like I can't.
Those are good numbers games. That's gonna make the numbers look really eye popping.
Like even Dak not getting that kind of cakewalk in his division.
Just the Eagles. The Jets beat 2 playoff teams.
Yeah,
that's more playoff teams than the Eagles won't beat this year. And the Giants are
but
one game away.
Are we high on the Jets though? Are we high on, would the Jets beat any NFC East team right now?
No, NFC. The Eagles would be like Eagles would love to see the Jets. They can do what they did to the Lions against.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess that's it for everything. All right, Eric.
Oh, my man.